Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Continental Qualifiers to the 2023 UCI Cycling Esports World Championships. For so many riders this weekend, there is so much on the line. These races are hugely important, and it would be their one shot to get it right to earn the ultimate honor of representing their country at the World Championships. What makes this extra special is it is the only discipline within cycling where anyone, and I mean literally anyone, can have a shot at getting into a world championship. This really is cycling meets esports.
That's right, Nathan. I can't wait to see these riders battle it out on the virtual roads. Every race is going to be a little bit different, but all of them will be epic in their own way. We don't know yet what tactics and methods the riders are going to use to get their qualification places, but we're sure that this weekend goes to a very high level. The strategies will develop as the racers learn from those who have gone before them here. We have three macro regions for the men and women: Asia and Oceania, Europe and Africa, and Americas. Each will be racing three back to back races with these unique qualification opportunities throughout.
Let's not waste any time and get right into the format for these races today, which means so much for so many of these people. The formats will vary slightly between each region to reflect the field size and qualification spots that are available.
These men will be racing three back to back races with three qualification spots on offer, one each race. A scratch race on France's Rue Mapoul, a hill climb on the new route. It's the Innsbruck Continental's hill climb. And finally, a sprint race on the Bell Lap in Crit City.
In this first race, we're going to see our first qualification place awarded, and it's all going to be on who gets over the finish line first. Only one rider will get their qualification spot at the end of this race. The next 50 riders from second to 51st place will go through to the second race, where there will be more qualification spots on the line. The question is which riders will go all out for the win in the first race and which will keep their powder dry for later qualification. I can't wait to see how this plays out. So what does the course look like? Rule has a total length of 27.2 kilometers, an elevation gain of 155 meters, starting and ending on a climb. Power-ups are assigned to the arches at the segments with an arrow at the Petite KOM, feather at the Aqueduct KOM, draft at the Pave Sprint, and arrow at the Marina. Racers will need to work out the best strategy for these power-ups, when to use them, and when to keep them.
Well, thank you, Nathan. The racing is about to start, so let's head down to the pens and get the Continental qualifiers started.
Well, the men down in the pens here for Europe and Africa are about to take off. Here we go. Rule Mapoul is out on course. This is going to be it. One rider, Dave. One rider is going to qualify from amongst all of these starters. I'm seeing 105, I believe, 106 starters out here today. So this is going to be quite the effort. Out of one rider out of all of these grabbing a ticket. We've got, and then from there, Dave, the battle to stay involved is on a whole nother level for this specific race out here today.
This start list reads, it's a jaw dropper, to be honest. I feel like when you realize that there's no North Americans in the other regions represented, you get it. It is Europe and Africa, but my goodness, it is just star-studded. You know, earlier, Nathan, we watched Ollie Jones today put on an absolute clinic. He soloed. He basically attacked now on the course and stayed clear, actually won by 3 minutes. A lot of that has to do with the dynamics out here. This is not a bike race. This is esports, and things have really changed. You did a great job of laying out the format here. Now, today, Nathan, when you look at all of these heavy hitters, do you realize how confident you have to be in yourself to go for the win out here? Because in this very unique process that we have, it's a much safer bet, or is it? Who knows? I mean, this is what's so fun. But staying, within the lines and just going for a transfer into race 2 and then waiting for the lion's share of spots there in the third race, or do you go for it, Ollie Jones style, and just bury it out there. I have a feeling we're going to see some bigger names attacking. Back to you, Nathan, as we pick up all the hens. Roule ma poule. It's fun to think that that's a common phrase in France, meaning let's go, let's roll, boys. Well, they're rolling.
On paper, we had, as far as in scripted, 124 starters. It looks like taking the line, though, for showing up on the day, I am seeing 101 that have taken off from the start line for the show and go. Now, the thing with this is, Dave, things really change up here when it comes to how much you can actually wait, how much patience you can have when you come to this big of a field. With the reality of only 50 starters in the next out of the 101 that have started this first here, and then 25 starters in the final race. On top of that, there's only 14 places available. My opinion, because there's so many racers here, you've got to take every chance that you can get. If you're not a climber, I really think race 1 and race 3 you're just looking at those to do your absolute best to get the best result you possibly can and get into those races, especially thinking of 3. On 2, I think you're really saving up and saying, I'm going to put all my chips on the table for that first place or make it to race 3. It's really interesting because how many have shown up to this Europe and Africa. It totally changes the dynamics. I don't think you can be very patient because so many people are gunning for it.
In our 3 macro regions, we've seen 25 total riders qualify. The women all raced yesterday, and today it's also 25. This is going to be, it looks like a rider getting back into the group. Kamiński, the Polish rider, talented, Nathan. No reason, I wonder what's going on right now, is that there's no reason to expect him to be dropped. It must have been some kind of a technical issue there, possibly.
Yeah, interesting that it
Should
does
be
look
okay,
like he's
but-
fairly calm as well. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. It looks like he's getting back on terms, and he is calm at this point, it looks like. And I think perhaps a little bit of technical. Maybe he's saying, I'm not
see a
going to
cat?
use too much energy to stay involved.
Looking for a cat in the background, Nathan. Maybe stepping on a keyboard. You look to be cat-free there.
That section of course also may have been a little bit of a speed roll. You know, sometimes when you come over the bumps there and you're trying to just kind of hang on to the back of the pack and find that draft, you can be almost overly conservative, and he may have just lost it for a second there. Now we do see a little bit of an attack. Interesting enough, is he trying to split the group? This is going to be the French rider Dida now making a Lucien Didot. Making a move. James Barnes comes across, Hywell Davies as well as Martin Harburg. They're going to be the ones responding. You know, you kind of have to respond at the same time. There's sit in that cool spot where you can just get a free ride, because I don't think this is going much of anywhere. You'd have to see 10 or 12 get off the front to really stay away.
What do you think about this course as far as how well it suits James Barnes, the South African? Earlier today, Nathan, I was thinking, why don't we see James Barnes racing? He lives in New Zealand, doesn't he? And he does, but he's a South African. That's the passport he holds. So there he is, right on cue. Thank you. Certainly, Nathan, he's one of my favorites for this race and taking the ticket to the Worlds. He's raced in the 2 previous editions and done quite well for himself. Super talented rider, so watch out for James Barnes today.
Yeah, and James, I did see him earlier making some comments. He's been watching all the broadcasts. Absolutely love to see him hanging out in the chat. And he had a similar call time to us to me for the Oceania. His call time to get racing, he said, was 1 a.m. So he is racing very early in order to represent his home country. Good to see him with his commitment. And for James Barnes, that question you just brought up there, Dave, I think this first race and the last race is what's going to suit him. I'm not sure that he can match the pure climbers that are going to show up today. I have a feeling we've got Ed Laverick in the field. Be on the watch out for him to really blow things up on the second half of that second race in the Innsbruck Continental Climb Hill race. That's going to be the one to watch out for the pure climbers like Laverick. Barnes, on the other hand, Roule ma poule, Bell Lap, that's where I think he's going to be looking for punching his ticket.
Interesting. Yeah, I was definitely thinking about him for this particular because you're right, Nathan. It's a very unique group of riders that will survive. It was pretty amazing, actually, to see a group of 5 riders making it down to 400 meters to go, as it's such a selective course. That's the next race coming up in Innsbruck. Just really quickly to recap, about half of these riders will qualify to transfer into race 2. One of these gentlemen will receive an invitation to the World Championships to represent his nation, and that will not take away from the tally that that country has, the allocated spots. It adds to it. So we've seen some countries doing a tremendous job of bolstering their squad for Worlds taking place mid-February of 2023. So really just a couple months away right now. Nathan, going back to the action, there are so many quality riders in this group. As we were just talking about James Barnes, I mean, you could almost go country by country. You mentioned Ed Laverick earlier, the Welsh rider. That's a really good call. But I mean, I don't even know where to start with all the Belgians. It is worth noting that Jasper Perdanes was on the start list, but he's at Zwift Academy right now, which is incredibly cool for him, and they are not taking the start. We had the same situation with a few of the women as well, so good luck to all of them. I know it's a really big weekend going on, but how about Matthias de Roos, Nathan? I think that's a good rider to look at as well as one of our favorites in this field.
Yeah, Matthias de Roos, I think if he's on a good day, he can do all of it. I have a feeling that he can try and go for a ticket this first race. He can go for the climb as well, I believe, with a good punch at the end. And he also obviously has a nice sprint for the Bell Lap. Looking at Miguel Andres here out of Spain, the Movistar rider, and a little bit of a rock and roll there coming from him, the way that he uses his energy on the trainer. Everybody's got their own style, and he's sitting real nice within the pack here, keeping things fairly cool at 3.9 watts per kilogram. The speeds here, Dave, with this large of a pack, though, it can ramp up so quickly. The attentiveness that you need to make splits, if anybody really goes for it. We'll see if we can see any risks taken. It's going to be interesting. Davies now moving to the front at 7.1. Some riders trying to make some moves, it looks like.
27.2 kilometers is what the course is, but really when you look at it, that severe climb, the petite KOM at the beginning and at the end, severe, not completely bananas, but significant, that's for sure. Nathan, we're into this long drag now. The aqueduct, that's a significant feature. I have a feeling we'll split the group, as this is Tepolorio. Here we go. Look at this, and Hal Davies, Nathan. Look at this.
Yeah, Tepolorio and Hal Davies, 2 separate countries, but from the same trade team. It is going to be Wahoo Lacole trying to make some move. Turek now covers that immediately along with Gamps that goes across. If they get 3 or 4 off the front, they're most likely going to start working very well together. They don't want to leave it to a large pack over the top of that petite King of the Mountain. And I think that's a really smart thing to do, actually, with how large this pack is. It's a little bit of a gamble because you can draft so much on that reverse petite KOM that going for it like this, establishing a breakaway group, it actually betters your chances by quite a lot if you can catch some really good punchy riders out. Lionel Viassen now taking up the charge. There's the duck on the front, the Belgian rider looking to qualify, one of the most well-known esports racers in the world. Good to see Lio here and shutting things right on down for Belgium.
Eddie Uhl now moving off the front. Another talented rider. Boy, a lot of heavy hitters up near the front. I'm surprised this group isn't splitting a little more than it is, but they are throttling it right now, Nathan.
Jacobs there throwing down an arrow power up already. Now, let's really quickly talk as we head toward the aqueduct a little bit about these power-ups. They are going to be on offer at each one of the banners out there, but they are specific to the banners. They're going to be getting that arrow power-up over the top of, they got the arrow power up over the top of the petite KOM. The feather is on offer at the aqueduct KOM. So the riders who are using this arrow power up now or going into the aqueduct, they know that a feather is on the way at the aqueduct KOM. And this is to take away those random number games so that there is at least a known, everybody has the same resources available to them. The draft that is also available at the Pave Sprint that's right after the Aqueduct, and then a little bit later on after those fields through France, the Arrow at the Marina. And now here we go. Dawson making a move. There's Christopher Dawson off the front, the Irishman. And this is a rider that could make a move like we saw from Ollie Jones, even amongst this kind of a pack today, Dave.
Yeah, Northern Ireland represented by a guy who, if you go back a couple seasons ago, he was one of the top winners in ZRL. So this is going to be really interesting now to see what kind of response he gets. An absolute known talent, though. So no one's going to be surprised right now to see Chris making this move. And let's see what this gap looks like. It's gone up to almost 5 seconds, Nathan. I am interested to see who wants to go join him. I think a few riders would want to take this bait.
Yeah, Dawson's about to collect the feather power-up as well, but it's not going to be of a whole lot of use, I don't think, on the downhills. Maybe he'll be able to use it as they make their way through the Pave Sprint in just a moment. It looks like there is going to be some riders looking to come across with those arrows. All those arrow power-ups at 7 watts per kilogram for Dollar Mail. Steinman as well with Dawson out the front. I think this is going to get shut down pretty quickly, but it may cause a little bit of separation in the pack behind. This is a pretty big match to burn here from Dawson. Getting the legs going here. 5 seconds. I think this is all going to come back together. A few may fall off the back.
All right, let's see. This is a dynamic moment that we're looking at right now. Not everyone is going to be in the group. So, yeah, you can see that's going to be the Irishman off the front now, the group thinning out here. And this is where you're going to be glad that you were looking for that positioning earlier. The Turkish flag represented, the Kayan brothers, or at least one of them in this race. And there's your split, Nathan. That is significantly less. Well, no, it does all connect. I thought there might have been a gap opening up, but that still doesn't look like 100 riders on screen right now. He comes back.
Yeah, you're correct. 93 have made the front at this point. We have seen riders falling off a little bit here and there. So about 8 riders have gone off the back now at this point. And as we see here, Dawson being consumed back by this pack at this point. You see the speeds. They could get into a super tuck. They're going so fast down this little 3% gradient. It goes to show you the snowball effect that does take place. The avalanche that is such a large pack here out on Zwift.
Micro rests that you can get out here do all add up. There is no question that they're running that engine hard right now. Taking a look at the front, what a mix of flags we've got up there now. We've seen some big names make a bit of a run at it, test attacks there, but nothing sticking. But wait until Ed Laverick digs in out here, going into Ed mode. Very popular rider, Nathan, and certainly I'm anticipating. It's been a while since we've seen him racing out here at this level. So we'll see if he's got his A game. Always would think he does. We take a look at Grupo Compacto.
For Ed, I really think that the Innsbruck climb is what he's going to focus pretty much all of his chips on. To win out for Ed, I think, on the reality of this specific climb on Ruamapool will be very difficult with such a punchy, quick to the line. There's a little bit of a flap leading into that final kick. It's only going to be about a 20 to 30 second effort. The reality of just the big rulers that can come through with a gigantic effort, I'm not sure he'll be able to match that. So I think everything. Now look at this. Kaminsky, the rider who was off the back momentarily, though, going flying through this pack. Counterattack here after the aqueduct through the Pave. He actually used it, looked like his feather power-up. It was a double power-up movement, I think, actually, from Kaminsky. Arrow right into a feather. That's where all that speed came from. Immediately 3 seconds. Nobody responding here, Dave. This is interesting at 6'3".
Back-to-back power-ups. That's some Zwiftcraft, Nathan. Great job, Michael. This is Michael Kaminsky. So obviously the Polish rider was not having a biomechanical earlier. Interesting to see now he's taken his turn on the front. This is the mighty, mighty Canyon team that he represents as far as a air quotes trade team goes. This is all about racing your way onto the national team. Every man for himself out here. Although there's going to be some hidden alliances, I'm sure, as it's always going to work that way. But right now, the Polish rider really putting them in the box.
Yeah, now we do see Pettinger, Anderson, Davies, Mail, Ull, Wagner, Hughes, Paniza, Lorio, all looking to go across to this. Well, actually, this is just going to be the two that just jumped across, Petner and Anderson. That's going to be the riders that are actually making the juncture. There's a couple on the front there with Davies and Uhl. Sitting in that fourth place as well with Vidar Mail. Vidar now pushing at 6.4 watts per kilogram. He's dragging the pack with him, actually, rather than jumping across. That is an interesting move there from such an experienced esports racer. That's a tactical move to keep things moving at the front, to not just let this get away. He wants a sprint, it seems like, on this rule of the pool.
That's a great catch, Nathan. These three now, let's see if they can combine their efforts. Peloton, Nathan, doesn't look like they're giving much leash, to tell you the truth. I don't know that I'm going to be sliding my chips onto the betting on these gentlemen right now, but, you know, crazy things have happened out here on this Rule Pool course. So this is going to be, again, Pettinger, the Austrian rider, with Andresen, the Danish rider. Boy, Denmark has been certainly not coming on strong. They've become a dominant nation. When you think that, you know, it's one of those nations, Northern European, Nathan, that I'm going to guess is around 8 million people. And if you looked at the number of Danes in the top 100 esports riders, talk about punching above your weight, it's going to be Andersen going clear and solo now. So the Dane has hit out, and yep, Pettinger's going to hold on. Nathan, can these guys roll this all the way to even past the bottom of the final Petit KOM?
Yeah, this is a great move, actually. It's a counterattack coming from Anderson and Pettinger. They were able to continue on with what was initially instigated here. And this is really tactically smart, because it was the second move to keep the pace high. Jumping over the top of that 2%, 3% little bump, that's going to keep them going faster than the pack. The pack is not really rolling through at too high of a watt per kilogram. If Pettinger and Anderson can pull through at 6.0 plus, but they have to continue on in this kind of match burning, really use some resources here to stay away from a pack like that. They're out to 5 seconds. This is a dangerous move now at this point, but I have a feeling you might see some riders starting to jump across, knowing that this might stick. That may instigate closing down that gap, or we may end up with a couple more up front. But Pettinger, 7.5, solid move.
Yeah, no doubt. And these two have simpatico without any question. So that's going to be Christian Gorm, Andresen moving up to the front here as we take a look at Daniel Pettinger sitting right. That's our heat map showing you the draft. And he is right where you want to be, sitting in the red zone. So maybe just tuck it up a little bit closer there, but not bad. These guys know what they're doing, and that gap is growing, Nathan, over, well, let's call it 9 seconds now. Wow.
Yeah, Austria and Denmark off the front now at this point, out to 9 seconds. And this is what we've seen time and again in these races, because of the need to reserve as much energy as you possibly can for later races, to really put your chips on the table when you need to. Davies now going, Kaminsky as well. They can see that this might stick. 2 off the front. And this is a situation where you're going to see a lot more working together, I think, because this is such a gigantic peloton of riders. You almost have to work against the peloton in order to get the best situation to get that win for one spot that is available at the end. And again, these riders, they have to have some sort of an agreement, an unsaid agreement between each other to get to that place where they're going to get that win. But at the same time, only one spot gets through the Worlds, Dave, and the gloves will come off.
Bjorn Andresen is the Danish rider. Nathan Vidar Mel, the Norwegian, now moving up to the front. Oh, boy. Okay, so I think we're seeing a nice mix here of nationalities. It looks like everybody recognizes the problem. As you can see, Muff, the Danish rider, he gets to sit in. Right now, you can just see the 2 leaders in the distance here as they go by Chateau Saint-Michel. Boy, Nathan, what a beautiful, beautiful course this is. They're down to 10.5 kilometers of racing. The 2 riders off the front, again, Bjorn Andresen and Daniel Pettinger. And that gap, solid 9 seconds right now.
They've kept that at about 9 seconds, 10 seconds for about a kilometer or 2 at this point. I think group getting comfortable with this churn at the front, but now that we see it backing off the 4.0, some of these riders starting to think, okay, I'm not going to put any effort on the front. Anderson pulling through at 7.2 watts per kilogram. We're going to have to really watch those numbers. Ooh, and it looks like they're starting to have a little bit of infighting in the break here at this point. Who's going to do the work? Am I burning too many matches? Is this actually going to stick? Now it goes back up to 6-2. It looks like they're starting to get organized again. And I think the pack thought for a moment they were coming back. This is kind of touch and go as to whether or not these riders are fully committed to each other, or if they're going to start infighting saying, this is too much to burn if I don't just get away solo. I don't want to fight you for that one spot, and we might just get caught.
Well, this is 100% that we're going to share what you've got before we start tucking into mine here, and I would do exactly what these guys are doing. No reason to burn your matches. This gap is not large enough. So I think right now, status quo, Nathan. I think everybody's pretty comfortable back in this group. These two off the front showing a lot of courage, but I think safe money is going to be back on the peloton right now. But that's what we love about this, is it can go off the rails at any moment, down to 9.3 kilometers of racing. Really, it's going to come down to the petite KOM. Have these guys built up enough of a buffer, Nathan? Because right there, that the line, the dividing line that basically cuts this field in half, not exactly, but pretty close to that, advancing into the next race, it's somewhere right in the middle of that peloton, to tell you the truth. These two riding off of the front, although if they get caught, you do wonder what will happen at that point. There is a lot at play as I throw it back to you, Nathan, inside of 9K to go. The gap is close to 15 seconds here for these two.
Yeah, I just think that they're going to need a pretty big gap against how many riders are going to go full gas all in over the top of that climb. But, you know, we have seen in previous races the group throw in the towel and say, look, there's only one spot available up there. And with only one spot available up the road, am I going to be the one that puts everything in to close this down? Even on the climb with how much drafting there is, I'm not sure there's going to be that much motivation. It depends. With how many are here, though, I have a feeling it's going to go one way or the other, Dave. The pack is going to look at them and go, you guys have at it. There's not enough motivation to do this. But I have a feeling with how many riders are here, there'll be enough of them that just jump really, really hard. It's going to start creating this tornado and churn even on the climb that they're going to need I would say even 40 to 50 seconds to really stay away from with how fast this pack is going to climb. But they're almost halfway there, Dave. At 18 seconds, they continue on. It might be enough of a buffer.
Many hands make a light load. You know that saying, Nathan, right? I think that applies to the peloton right now. If everybody just gives a little bit, we can bring them back. If everybody is so, cheap? Is that the right word? Stingy with their efforts? Then this breakaway might stay away. So it's going to be, this is an Aska pushing. Now, Nathan, the Italian, has gone out of the peloton, trying to go from station to station like an astronaut here as he's on his way to the shuttle.
I wonder if Znaska is just trying to cause a little bit of momentum, try to get some riders to come across to him. This would be a monstrous effort to close that down and then assume that he's going to sit on and maybe get a sprint effort over the top of the climb. I have a feeling he was trying to instigate some speed out of this pack because you see him backing off immediately to 4.5 watts per kilogram. That's not going to close down the gap to somebody pushing forward with Pettinger on the front. I think he was more looking to say, hey, come and get me. Let's start getting this rotation going. Doesn't look like it worked out too well there. Zanaska, of course, one of the riders in the Zwift Grand Prix that had that walk-away ride in the Zwift Grand Prix on Yorkshire. If there's any rider that can go away, it's him. But Davies now back to the front, and 5.8 looks like Highwell Davies wants to make some moves as well to get things moving.
Howell is going to roar right now, the Welsh rider, another very much like Ed Laverick, I'd say he's got a real following out here and certainly has earned it. And let's see. So you know what? You are 100% right about Zanaska, Nathan. He was trying to be the spark that lights the fire. It turns out it was Hal Davies that did that because this is definitely in activate mode right now. Panizza is up there. Breger, the Belgian. So here we go. It is on at this point now, Nathan. At 6.7K to go. It looks like this chase is full gas.
Panizza to the front now, another Italian rider stoking the fire of the speed of this peloton. Anderson trying to keep that gap over 20 seconds at 6 watts per kilogram on the front of the break now at this point. Vidar Mail comes on through a reel. Now again, the organization though, it backs down. And we've seen this again and again. They hover at 9 to 10 seconds, and then everybody kind of goes, okay, I'm done working. I'm not going to just work for everybody else. And then it starts going back out again. Now it's that same thing. At the 20-second mark, they started getting a little bit organized, and then everybody backed off to 2.6 with Kalman on the front, Zanoska here, and now it goes back out a couple of seconds, and now they might gain another 10. Will it be enough to gain 10, 30, 20 seconds at this point? If they get over 30 to 40, I really think this is going to be a danger move. If they don't get that, there's going to be enough seconds coming back in the lower slopes that the Peloton's going to see, oh, I have motivation. This is going to come back the way we want to, and they're going to start fighting a little bit more. If it's too far out, though, I think that it'll take the motivation out, and they'll go, that's not coming back anyways. Let's let that one spot go. It's really going to be touch and go, I think, for when they hit those lower slopes and how quickly it comes back.
I think you hit the nail on the head, to tell you the truth. The dynamics at play, this Peloton fanned out from gutter to gutter right now. I don't think at this point that they are going to bring them back. I know that's a bold statement, but this is based on the fact that, again, this is not an exercise contest. This is not a standard point-to-point bike race. This is a very unique situation. Not quite half. But when you look at the Peloton here, most of these guys will advance into the next race with the same opportunity, one ticket directly to World Championships. This is going to be Laurent Didot, the French rider, attacking. He attacked one of the first riders to attack today. He's back at it. Now, this is not the Tête de la Course, though. The front of the bike race is up the road 24 seconds now. The advantage, Nathan, is actually growing, and I'm going to change my bet and go with the break now at this point, just because these guys are doing exactly what you talked about. Everybody looking at someone else to do the work right now.
Yeah, and this is, for me, it's a 50-50 at this point. 26 seconds now, as we can see. Now, here's the thing, Dave. There's 92 riders. 92 riders in this race right now. 50 get through. In the back of your mind, when you're in this Peloton, if you get in the racer's point of view, there's only one spot up ahead, and there's 50 spots to get through. And you know what's coming with the Innsbruck Continental's climb. You know that there's 12 spots available in race number 3. There's a lot of racers who are thinking, where do I bet my chips? Do I bet my chips on this climb that's coming up? There'll be some that do, but a lot of them are thinking, with the level of this field, I just want to be in that 50. That's all I'm caring about right now. Am I going to go for the first? There'll be a group that wants that, and there'll be a group that tries to make that happen. How quickly they bring back this time on the lower slopes is going to be the full telltale as whether or not this break is coming back. Because it's still possible, but it's whether or not the motivation is actually going to be there. It's at 30 seconds. I think this is at that 50-50 mark exactly. They just collected their final power-up, Dave. Aero power-ups for everybody as they hit the slopes, the lower slopes of the Petite KOM.
I'm embarrassed to say, Nathan, I don't know all 7 of the deadly sins, but I know 2 of them are greed and sloth. And sloth is not the issue out here, but greed might be. Now, I'm going to give these 2 a pass because I think you said 50-50 for whether they come back or not. I also would say it's probably pretty close to 50-50 your chances of winning out of this group of 2, right? So that's much better than the guys back in the Peloton have. No doubt about that. So I'm feeling good about it. The risk was worth it at this point now. Whether it works out, that's another story. But I would say, guys, well played at this point. Get an A+ for that. Now, can you finish the deal? Only one of you gets a ticket. That's a tough ratio. One guy is going to do a tremendous amount of work and find himself a little bit behind the 8 ball in the next race, Nathan, after this effort, because the guys sitting back in that Peloton are definitely doing less work. So it's a gamble. It's what we love about esports. It's certainly interesting. 3.2K to go. So they're going to take around 30 seconds at a minimum into the bottom of Petite KOM, Nathan. Is that enough? I know I keep putting pressure on you.
Yeah, I don't know, because they might start having some questions in the back of their head as well with what you just brought up, Dave. They might not start working quite as well together because they start thinking, now it's one spot ahead. Do we have enough of a buffer? And if they start playing games with each other here, then that comes down very quickly. So they have to continue on working together till that moment that they know they've got it and it's a kick to the line. That's a really sharp edge to play here with a pack that's got this kind of firepower. It's right at that 40 seconds I talked about, Dave. We'll see what they do on the lower slopes. That's going to tell it all. Pettinger goes 8 watts per kilogram. He just says it's got to be early. Anderson, can he respond? He goes at 8.3 as well. Now the gloves are starting to come off, Dave, because they have to early to keep on this kind of a gap.
This is James Bond and James Bond walking into the casino and putting $1 million down on red 17, right? They are gambling on themselves. They've gone all in. Now, Nathan, second place in this race, and I truly believe it's going to come out of this group of two, is going to be worse than 49th, to tell you the truth, because he'll have done so much work for a place that has no more value right now. So this is what you call going all in, baby. Esports is awesome, and this is a perfect example of something we just would never see outside of this format. So Nathan, this is going to be thrilling. One of these two gets the platinum ticket to the World Championships and a chance to represent his nation. Another walks away almost empty-handed.
With Eddie Uli, though, here, he's on the front, Dave, at 9 watts per kilogram. Everybody's following. Look at that, 5 seconds brought back just in the first slope. Anderson and Pettinger, they dropped underneath 5 watts per kilogram just a moment, but they're letting Eddie go. The pack doesn't believe in it. The pack says, look, we're caring about the top 50 places. There's only one up there, and they have settled. And Eddie Hull has not. He's all in to catch them up ahead. That is a massive gap. Dave, this is a huge gamble from this rider right now. He has broken away. He's assuming he can close a 30-second gap and come over the top of Anderson. Wow, what a move here coming from Eddie Hull.
If you're the directors, you're saying, red alert, Eddie Uhl has hit out with authority. Eddie Uhl is completely committed here. So another one of the South Africans, boy, they've got some talent in this race. Eddie can do it. There's no doubt about it. So these guys, I think this is the last man standing. Down to 1.5 kilometers to go. It's a significant climb on the way. The gap is down to 22 seconds. It is going to be very close. I have to say, though, I think it's fair to say Eddie Uhl is the only man who had the courage to go for it here, as does everybody else. It looks like it, Nathan. We'll see if it stays that way. Back to you, Eddie Uhl, chasing like a mad demon.
The tough spot this puts Eddie in, though, is that this only puts a little bit more fire in the breakaway, because now that they know it's only one rider chasing them, they think, okay, we can stay away from one rider. As long as we continue to press on and push each other a little bit, we do not want him to come across. This almost puts more wind in their sails, actually, to stay away from Eddie. But he's closed down 15 seconds so quickly in like 1 kilometer. This is amazing, Dave. If he actually does this, but even if he makes the catch, can he just roll right past them? Because they're probably going to have a sprint in the legs. This is such a massive effort here. Ed Laverick goes totally unexpected here. 11 watts per kilogram from Ed Laverick on this climb, trying to go across at 27 seconds back. Ed Mode, I wasn't expecting Ed Mode to Continental hill climb, but here he goes as well.
I'm trying to figure out if that's a different bike race that we're seeing there in two separate universes happening, Nathan, or right now, or if they're trying to close down this gap. This is it. I don't think that they're going to make the catch. As these two, this is going to be a small gap for Bjorn Andersen, the Danish rider. He's in position. Nathan, I'm going to throw it back to you as we come up very quickly as Uhl is trying to make the catch.
Anderson trying to hold on at 8.3 watts per kilogram. Eddie, he's coming through at 10 watts per kilogram. He might just roll these, boys. It's 590 meters to the line. The South African might make this happen. He's made the catch now. Pettinger and Anderson, they are trying to hold off. It's not going to happen. He comes flying by like they're standing still, Dave. The breakaway is caught, and Eddie Lewis says, nope, I am the king of this mountain. I'm going right on by with 12 seconds over the top of Ed Laverick, trying to push at 7.5. He's got Sanaska on his wheel, but Eddie Uhl goes by and comes flying at 550 watts. He might make this happen, but Anderson has a little bit left, Dave. 9 watts per kilogram from Anderson. As Eddie Uhl put too much in on the table with an arrow power, Bjorn Anderson might still make it happen. It's going to come right to the line.
All right, Nathan. Well, Bjorn is going to dig in, but I think I'm going to throw it back to you as Eddie. Does he have it or not?
Yeah, I think Eddie just barely able to pull this off. There it is, Eddie Uhl, a monstrous effort from him, and he went all in halfway from about I think it was 3/4 of that climb he took on with an amazing effort, something we've almost never seen before. Top 50 amongst this group will make it through to the next race. That came through really, really tight there, Dave. We'll have to wait and see, but what an amazing job. That is one of the best efforts I literally have ever seen for a catch on Zwift to go flying right on by. Eddie Uhl just did what I thought was absolutely impossible. Amazing ride from the South African. Representation at World Championships now. Eddie Uhl is an absolute champ already.
51st is the cutoff here, Nathan. These are obviously riders well clear of that drama. Eddie, congratulations. I really, chapeau, take my hat off. That was what you call, Nathan. You called that perfectly, betting on yourself at the very highest level. I love that. I agree with you completely. That was really what Eastwood. We're just running through the names here. You can see some big ones like Lionel Viassen, Tepalorio, Pim van Diemen, all right in the middle of this group. That's probably where you want to be, Nathan, to tell you the truth. Unfortunately, second place is a heartbreaker here. And
Yeah,
third.
it is. It really is a heartbreaker. And, you know, those spots too, those second and third spots that you saw there just a moment ago. But this is Peter Trzynski, I think just being the last rider to make it through out of Poland, actually. And the rest of these riders that you see below 52nd place, not going to be making it through to the next race. It's only the top 51 that are going to be making it through. So, wow, though that look, I mean, still unable to even move. He's going to be sitting there for a solid 5 minutes, I would think, for Eddie here. Looks like there's a little bit of a windstorm wherever he's at also in the background. That was in his sails, it looks like, to keep him cool. And this rider just put in the ride of his life. Absolutely love it. World Championships for the South African. He is going to be a shoe-in for that. And Dave, I gotta be honest. That is one of the most impressive rides I've ever seen on Zwift by Eddie there. I did not think there was nothing in me that thought he was going to go across and on top of that go right on by and he will sprint to the line there. It looked like mind over matter to me as far as the heart of that rider.
Yeah, there's no argument here. Just I'm still fizzing with excitement about how cool that was to watch. And yeah, Eddie Uhl rhymes with cool. I remember when we first saw Eddie racing here on Zwift. He's been impressive for since the very get-go. This is, I'm going to say, the biggest ride we've seen from him, to tell you the truth. Although I do want to point out that he just did South Africa a big favor in their bid. They've already had a world champion, Ashley Moman-Pasio, out of South Africa, and they are in with a good shot here in 2023. That world's coming up November 18th, February 18th. I'm trapped in November here. But Nathan, South Africa and fuego right now. They've still got James Barnes to look forward to for later in the day. And Eddie makes another spot available, honestly, for an up-and-coming rider or maybe some new talent in South Africa to have a chance to race at Worlds, as his spot does not impact their allotment. So well done, Eddie Uhl. That was cool, man.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Dave, actually. Still spots available for a country that able to get a lot of representation here at Worlds strictly just through the Continental qualifiers. James Barnes, obviously a favorite to be able to grab one of these qualifying spots. Eddie Uhl making it happen there as well, really bolstering that roster. Dave, speak to that a little bit. This is just additions to the rosters, actually. These are spots that you can battle for to bolster the roster of your nation, actually, rather than the allotments that have been given to the national federations.
Yeah, I mean, just like yesterday, we saw a few nations like Great Britain and Sweden really reinforcing their teams on the women's side of things. Earlier today, we did have the Oceania and Asia races. And, it was really interesting in seeing some up-and-coming nations like Indonesia and Taiwan, but ultimately it was New Zealand and Australia that took those 5 spots. Just to kind of carry on with that thought, Nathan, the allotment here, this is really a cool situation because there's riders all over the globe that are, in various situations with national federations. And this is trying to give the entire globe a chance. Obviously, you still need a smart trainer, and we can talk about that. Racing was so exciting, Nathan. We didn't even really dig in on some of the nuts and bolts like verification and how accurate the trainers are that our riders are using, and how scrutinized they are. They really submit themselves to quite a process here. It's a commitment to race esports at this level. I mean, when you talk about dual verification, it's something that is required, and for a good reason, but it's something that not everybody is doing when they hop on Zwift. That is for sure. So 25 spots for the women, 25 spots for the men. Again, these don't affect all of the nations around the globe and their federations. They'll still have their chance to select riders and go with who they'd like to bring. And it's always an interesting list. It's always really exciting, to tell you the truth, to hear the wild cards maybe that we would have out there. But this is for, I would say, and Nathan, you've been an advocate since I've known you, this is for every Zwifter out there to help us find the very best, no matter where on the globe you are. I think that's really fair to say. This is the People's Championship.
Yeah, it's a great point to bring up, and maybe something to inform the viewers and people who might be just tuning in for the first time for the Continental Qualifiers, that this is a pathway to a World Championships for just about anyone. There were pathway races that took place through I believe it was October, 3 of them that riders could sign up for. They go through a verification process after they did take place in those, and to prove that they actually had the setups that they needed to, as well as the ability to jump into these races. Then an invite also was given to anybody that participated in the Zwift Grand Prix, the ZRL Premier Division from the past. Anybody that was at that top end elite also had a shoe in, because they had already gone through the ZADA verification, as well as being on the accuracy level that is needed. These riders actually have to be on smart trainers that are a plus or minus 1% accuracy, as well as having dual recording for these races, and proving that they actually have that ability. We did see a lot of some questions coming through about how exactly do you get involved here? Well, that's the way that they were able to get involved in these qualifiers. So there is definitely a little bit more scrutiny on this, and a pathway that everybody could take to get there. Now at this point though, Dave, that pathway, it's shrinking. We've brought through 50 starters to the next race, and now we're going to actually get onto a course that is specifically designed for the Continental Qualifiers. The Innsbruck Continental Hill Climb course. This has never been seen before in Zwift. It is specifically designed for this weekend.
I think it's incredibly cool that this opportunity exists, and so do all of the top climbers in the world, because this is one of the greatest opportunities that they're going to have. The course profile, it looks like a heart attack, to tell you the truth, because it is flat. That one little kicker there, right in the middle of the flat part, that's the leg snapper, which is an infamous part of the of really the whole Innsbruck world, no doubt. It's a launch pad for a lot of attacks, but today it might separate this group. But Nathan, there's so much horsepower here. It's really going to come down to what you can do on that climb. It's going to be much like we saw in the finale of race 1. There's going to be one rider that will get a chance to advance to the World Championships directly out of this race. And then we have a group, I believe that it will be 12 riders that will be advancing out of the third and final race. More than that going into the race, it's 25, but 12 will advance into Worlds from that 25. So again, we'll split this field in half. More opportunities remain. But really, Nathan, I'm going to throw it back to you with this thought. It's one rider out of this second event here in Innsbruck, and it'll be the best climber in the field. There's no question about that. Who's it going to be? Well, that's a long list to look at, but some riders will certainly be saving themselves for the 12 spots that remain in the next race. Again, 25 going through, 12 tickets to Worlds.
Yeah, 100%. So far then there's 14 total, and we've got one rider, as you said, Dave, going through for this Innsbruck Continental's Hill Climb. They will be able to earn it at the top of the climb, and then there'll be 12 more given on the bell lap in the next race. But Dave, on this climb, we saw earlier something a little bit different play out in the men's race than we saw in the women's races yesterday. In the women's races yesterday, we saw a sole rider over and over again break away and just demolish the field on this climb. Earlier this morning, though, we actually saw amongst Australia, as well as Japan, New Zealand. This group form at the front of about 6-7 riders. Then it broke down to 4 riders. Then it was down to 3 riders, and it was this absolute battle to the line with an actual sprint to the line in Innsbruck. I wonder though, Dave, are we going to have a star rider, a shining rider that breaks away on this climb, that just climbs above the rest? The depth of this field, I have a feeling we're going to see even more tactics play out than we saw earlier for the Oceania Asia for the men. It'll be really exciting to see how this plays out. With 50 starters, Dave, and such a high level, I have a feeling this is going to be a pack of the best climbers we've ever seen out on Zwift taking on this Continental hill climb.
Yeah, Nathan, that's a great question. I'm going to go with the latter, that it's going to be a group of riders making their way into the final few hundred meters, just based on the depth and the strength and the motivation. Because the other end of that spectrum is the Ollie Jones scenario, where a rider goes so definitively at the bottom of the climb, but they're also so talented. I'm thinking of maybe someone like a Lionel Viasen, something like that, where people just give up on trying to chase him, as we saw somewhat. Everybody except for basically Eddie Uhl gave up on chasing those two. It paid off. Eddie bet on himself. Maybe a scenario like that would be the most likely in my mind. A small group of riders coming into the final. This is Teppo Lorio that we're looking at, the Finnish superstar, one of the all-time favorites, no doubt. The people's champion is fair to say for Teppo. So certainly good luck to him, as he's another rider that would really enhance Finland's team if he can take a spot here.
How about Geldins there, it looks like, riding for the ESRT team. Good to see him, I believe, coming out of Norway. Getting some, look at all of the resources next to him there, all the sugar and water. There's James Barnes himself, riding for South Africa, and his trade team, obviously, next presented by Insured, getting his warm up. I know he's also streaming over on Twitch. It's great to see him jumping in and making that happen. Lionel Viasen, the duck, in just a moment here, it sounds like. And there's Lionel keeping everything cool. Dave, the interesting thing is we've got a lot of these top esports racers, some of the most well-known names in the sport. A lot of them here, Dave, they've made themselves known through these maybe not full-on hill climb courses, though. I have a feeling we may see some new names make their way to the front.
Martin Mertens is the rider that, well, not a new name, but a rider that would certainly be looking for an opportunity like you're talking about, Nathan. One of the things I've always said is you really judge the quality of your victories based on how tough the course was, and even more so, the quality of the competition. So if you can come away with your world spot out of this group, you're going to be feeling really good about where you're at.
Yeah, Daniel Turek there, up and out of the saddle, keeping his legs warm, it looks like here. A little bit of a bounce there in the front end of the bike. Nice to see Turek. This is a rider to watch out for when it comes down to a sprint for sure. We'll see what he can hang on for, or even have a good ride over the top of this climb. Now, Dave, the kind of numbers that these riders are going to have to be throwing down, we said on average throughout the entirety of the course. There's Kaminski, a rider out of Poland, gave it a go, it looked like earlier. In the Rulma pool. The riders now getting out on course. But Dave, the kind of effort that they have to throw down on this course out here today, well over 6 watts per kilogram for the duration of this climb, I would think. It's going to be some of the highest power numbers we have ever seen on a climb on Zwift.
Agreed. And Nathan, that's factoring in the fact that the first half of this race is flat and theoretically won't be that intense. Teppo Lorio has attacked. So the smiling assassin out of Finland, he's going to keep the pace high, no question. He's got a bunch of his trade team teammates back in this group that probably appreciate that, as Vidar Mel goes up and over the top line of Viasen, the Belgian flag there. Luca Zanacca, the Italian, up near the front. Nathan, it's already a who's who. Heavy hitters only need apply at this point, as Vidar Mel is going to lead this parade out on the course. It's only 12.4K to go. This is going to be rugged.
Yeah, Vidar Mel at 5.3 watts per kilogram. It's not a full-on attack, but I have a feeling maybe he's trying to instigate a little smaller breakaway group to go with him. Zanaska now going across. Van Diem going. Joachim Leeson is here. We haven't seen him at all so far. Like, we haven't seen his name pop up at all, which tells me he's been keeping it very quiet, Dave. But this is a rider amongst all of them that is ranked right always in those top 1, 2 to 3 places in the world. And Joachim Leeson has a kick like no other. I'd definitely be watching out for him. I think he's marked this race as well.
Full Dagger. Nathan is back as well. Anders Full Dagger. These two are on the podium at the first Esports World Championships with the UCI and Zwift. So those are two huge names. Great catch. And I don't know exactly where the form is at for Anders, but this course would suit the Anders I know very, very well. Again, the Danes are on fire right now. And there's Daniel Pettinger, Nathan, back on the front after his great ride earlier.
Was it so? I mean, the amount of effort put out by both Anderson and Pettinger, we'll see what they can come back with. They really drained the tank here to make it to that almost finish line for a ticket, but the chips are already on the table. They probably are sitting there on the lower end with not a whole lot to bet. We'll see, though, Dave. Perhaps they're showing up with a whole lot of fitness and can make something happen over the top of this climb. There's Teppo L'Oreal keeping it calm. He was off the front for a moment, now sitting right on in. They went ahead and collected their first power-up through that sprint arch. It was a draft power-up that everybody will be seeing now in the upper left-hand corner of their screen. And we'll see if these riders want to use that up and grab the burrito that they'll be able to grab over the top of the leg snapper. Those are the only two power-ups available through the arches on this course today. The sprint with the draft, and now the leg snapper, King of the Mountain banner will offer a burrito. Very tactical decision to be making because they will definitely make a difference with the depth of this field. Every little bit is going to matter, and how you use those power-ups tactically is going to be huge. We saw it this morning with a drafting power-up. I believe it was from the winner over the top of that climb, using a drafted power-up or coming over the top with a whole lot of speed. So that would seem to be the one to be using if it is going to come down to a sprint.
Well, on cue, Joachim Leeson has attacked. Nathan, this is a brand new event format that's been designed specifically for the Continental Qualifiers to provide a similar challenge to the dynamics at the World Championships. And here's a guy who knows all about the World Championships, Hal Davies, moving back up to cover that. Teppo L'Oreal is there, so they didn't play around at all with Leeson rolling off of the front.
Yeah, they shut that right on down. Now, we may see a little bit of a whittle down on this reverse KOM for the leg snapper. Now, it doesn't punch quite as hard as the leg snapper in the opposite direction. They're going to go in a little bit downhill, 3%, 4%. As you can see, they're going to get some good draft through here and then roll right on through to the second half of this climb. We do see out the front here, Joachim's coming out of the Netherlands, but I don't think that this is an attack. I think he just found himself rolling off the front here and is going to try and find himself back in this pack. That speed's going to come on through. Goes to show you, when you find yourself off the front like that, it can make things very difficult. Drafting power-ups being thrown down. A lot of people reserving them, though, it looks like. Not a lot of them being used before they hit the banner. So about half the pack, I think, wanting burritos. The other half holding on to their drafting power-up for the speed that it'll provide. Disruption versus a little extra speed on someone's wheel. That's the difference there between those two, Dave.
Joachim's, though, a new name to watch out for riding at the front. This is very similar to what we saw mathematically to the previous races. Only half of these riders will advance into the third and final. This is going to be the World Championship format, so it's really cool to see it working out. Teppo, irrepressed. You just cannot hold this guy back, as he has got, it looks like Joe Perot going with him now, and that is correct. So the Belgian and the Finnish rider motoring off the front. Small advantage right now, Nathan. Let's see if this grows.
A little bit of a punch off the front there. I think they maybe just wanted to roll a little faster, or have a little bit of a. They weren't even given a go. I think they just kind of rolled off the front because it wasn't any serious attacks over the top of the leg snapper. That pack's going to come flying right on up to them. It's actually going to put them a little bit in the back foot and have to make a little effort to get back on turns with it, because that pack is going to roll through with such a snowball effect. They'll be fine though, and everybody together right on through here. The rider I was talking about earlier that came to the line with that massive sprint over the top of the Innsbruck ring climb reverse was Josh Harris this morning that qualified out of Australia. It was quite the battle between him and Hidenori Sasuchi out of Japan. Vidar Mail given a go though here very early, and from this moment forward, Dave, this is a place where it can be dangerous. This is not a poor tactical move to take the speed off of the back of the leg snapper descent and then go for it with that speed at 5.7 to try and gain an advantage before the lower slopes. And if he really believes in his climb and with a little bit of advantage, not a bad move from Mail.
Yeah, you would think that if he could just find 2 or 3 other riders that believed in this same concept, it would make a huge difference here as it dramatically shifts the landscape once the climbing begins here. Vidar, a very talented and experienced rider out of Norway, so it is really hard to try to outthink him right now. Definitely there's a method to what he's doing, but this peloton just cruising along, cruise control, actually. Right now, they're going to give him a few seconds.
Yeah, he's going to get up to, I think, 7 seconds or so. There's a little bit of a bump before they hit the downhill section. There's a bridge that goes again over the traffic that is in Innsbruck in just a moment as they take a left-hand turn. That bridge is actually a downhill section. Feels like a little bit of a false flat in the opposite direction going uphill as you approach the Innsbruck ring leg snapper forward. But in this direction, it's a slight downhill. That may put a little bit of a damper in the attack from Vidar Mail because the pack is going to get a little bit more free speed. It goes out to 10 seconds, though. We'll see if the pack backs off or starts rolling through at 4+. If they do roll through at 4+, 5 watts per kilogram, I think Mail might start seeing that advantage come down. If they sit up and look forward to the slopes that are off on the right and the left-hand side of your camera here, Dave, that's what they're about to take on, and that might take all the wind out of the sails. But Dawson looks to go to 7 watts per kilogram. I don't know if that's a jump across or just some instigation to make sure that Mail doesn't get too much advantage.
Someone hit the activate button in Sweden as we're starting to see Jonas Bjarhid moving up right now. But this gap has gone out to 12 seconds there with Joachim Leeson, the Danish rider, getting some help from Bjorn Andersen, big star from race number 1 out here. And it looks like it's like popcorn. It's starting to pop up on the front right now, Nathan.
Yeah, position really is going to matter with the number of riders here. You've got 50 riders all fighting for position. And if anybody goes at the lower slopes and really punches at that first 10% gradient, you find yourself a solid 20, 30 meters back. That could be the difference of making the front group or not. So everyone's going to be fighting for position at this point, but at the same time, trying not to waste too much energy. Vidar Mail's got 15 seconds. This is a great advantage to have for the riders that may come across to him. I know he's a pretty good climber. I'm not sure he's going to hold on to that advantage all the way to the top as a solo rider, but it may be a way that he could save a little bit of, in quotes, save energy for those initial 8-9 watt per kilogram kicks that we're going to see on the sharp parts of this climb for some riders to come across and form a front group. He's going to be able to, I think, easily become a part of that front group because of this advantage that he has.
I have Fabian Devola on my start list. I'm not 100% sure that he is in this group. He's a rider that I certainly, when you start looking, there's only a handful of riders that are ultimately going to believe that they can win on a climb this tough. There's a lot of riders that believe in their sprint and will be looking forward to the third and final race here. You've got to be in the top half of this field to be there, to be contesting for those spots. And there's 12 world championship tickets available there, but you've got to get into that race. And Nathan, that's why a lot of the most intense racing is going to be happening in the middle of this peloton, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, 100%. And with the 25 being the cutoff, with 26 to being the cutoff point to get through, that 26 bubble, I think, is going to be the hottest contested that we've seen over the weekend so far with the level that we have here. I don't think we've seen so far in every single race. It's been very decisive. The cutoff has happened right about 3/4 of the way to go, halfway to go. It became very obvious that that bubble had established and then riders could just roll in. I have a feeling with this pack, with the level and the parity between the riders, it's going to be even a sprint to the line for that final spot.
And then you have to start, you look in your crystal ball. If you think that you're going to be safe inside of that top 25, then you start looking at how you can do less work than the other riders. And it's really just a tactical slugfest out here. Being a slugfest, Vidar Mel, Nathan, still holding on at 5.3. So this is a benchmark moment for us here. Remembering that at this point, he had 23 seconds on some of the biggest names in esports, like Lionel Viasen and Luka Zanaska. 5.3K to go, 23 seconds. There's no way to answer the question, is he going to make it or not? It's just going to come down to whether he can do it. So again, to be clear, the top 26 will make it into the next race or World Championships. These guys are breaking away from the pack.
Schultz here, 7 watts per kilogram. This is what we were talking about, waiting for this moment into the kicks, 8% gradient. Now it's going to get even sharper. We've said it over and over again this weekend. You don't see much underneath the double digits on the gradient percentage here. These is the reprieve moments, really, of this climb as it backs on off. Schultz, Planter here, now making a move. They've got a solid gap on the main pack here at this point. Vidar holding on to 12 seconds, and this is what we were talking about. He got himself a buffer to climb at his own pace that he can hold over the top of this climb and maybe even reserve a few matches if people come across to him. It's a really good move by Vidar to make sure that the other riders might be on the back foot when they do catch him. Schultz now goes at 8 watts per kilogram here. They've got a solid 11 seconds back from Vidar, and they've got a good 6 seconds up from Russell and Viasen, who might be trying to close this down.
We're going to pretty quickly here sort out who really came to race for that one world spot guaranteed out of race number 2 here in Innsbruck. So it sounds like they're catching.
Yeah, it looks like it's 6 seconds. Dave Schultz is going to do it with plant through. Martin Mertens here is also pushing a solid 6.5 watts per kilogram with such a large pack on the chase here. These flatter sections are definitely going to matter for the roll through speed, and even the roll through speed of these riders with these little punches to take over at the front, take up some of the workload. It's going to start bringing back any kind of gap pretty quickly. Mertens now up and out of the saddle, 4.4, 177. In it for the win still, this entire pack here, Dave. This that gap of 10 seconds is not going to stay away most likely. But Schultz and Plantrud, they're on a mission probably to try and go right on by Vidar Mel. This is going to be the telltale right here as whether or not Vidar was looking to try and stay with a group like this or was he trying to break away solo. Looks like he's going backwards at this point as Schultz goes right on by at 8 watts per kilogram.
All right, so let's see what we've got now. No real group together. These guys going to slug it out on the climb now. Vidar Mel has been caught. Let's see where he ends up after that effort. It wasn't much of a buffer, to tell you the truth, if he's caught already at 4.2K to go. So that might have backfired a little bit there on Vidar. You got to risk it for the biscuit, as they say.
100%. Lucas Zanasca now going at 7 watts per kilogram. And Zanasca, the Italian rider, seeing that there's a threat up ahead with Schultz and Planter. He can see that they're pressing on, even after making the catch of Vidar Mel. Zanasca says, okay, this looks like this might be the race-winning move. Martin says that as well. Vidar Mel goes backwards. Lex Kalaman there. They're going to back off. Maybe from 5th place back is going to be the watch for the bubble, or is anyone going to jump across? I don't think you want to give these kind of riders too much wiggle room at this point.
2 different races going on out here, no doubt. These guys are in it to try to get that one spot. A lot of riders are on the defensive mode of they're just trying to make sure that they make the top 26 out here. Uh-oh.
Oh, Schultz, no. A dropout from Schultz, That rider looked like he was all in for the win here. The Danish rider, Jay Schultz, unable to continue, it looks like, at this moment. Complete dropout. He's going backwards. If he wants to even stay involved in this race, he needs to get back on the rider. He needs to get the power going again and get back in the top 25, or Schultz is gone here. Planteru was just banking, it looks like, on riding Jesper's wheel, but now it's going to be Zanaska taking over at the front and getting full advantage from that technical issue. And now Martin Mertens and Lucas Zanaska at the front, Planteru following. There's 3 riders off the front at 10 seconds up. Oh, what a heartbreak there for Schultz. He looked like he was the man that may be making everything happen on this climb, but a technical difficulty there, Dave, that makes him out the back. Will he get back involved?
Still too early to call this for the 3 riders, as it is a small enough gap that the big talents sitting in the chase are not out of contention here. But what an interesting and unique situation that we've got. Lucas Zanaska, Michael Planteru, and Martin Mertens are the 3 representing Italy, France, and Germany here in the front group. You can see now, Nathan,
Jesper
what kind
Schultz
of organization.
looks
So,
like, I believe. Sorry about that, Dave. A little bit of a cutout for just a moment there. It looks like Jesper Schultz, though, does have his power connected again. And I want to highlight these front runners as well, but we also have an amazing story developing behind here, because Jesper looked like a rider that might have been in it for the win, and now he's just trying to save his race at this point. He's in 41st or so place at this point, and he needs to ride himself back into the top 26 to save himself for still having a chance. He's about 17 seconds back from that group that has the top 26. We'll see if Jesper can make it happen. What a story to stay involved, and if he still gets a ticket, it'd be absolutely amazing. But this is the front of the race now. They've got 6 seconds over Perot and then 15 over the James Barnes group that I think may be starting to just think about qualification to the next round, allowing those top climbers to go away.
I would have to agree. The only upside, if they can find one, I'm trying to be a sunshine daydreamer here, is that he should have a big shot of adrenaline after that nightmare situation. Let's see if that can work for him. That was really an unfortunate situation. So just trying to find some hope there, because certainly that's a rider that deserves it. Vidar Mel's in trouble here. So Nathan, you want to play with the big dogs? This is what can happen out here. Is it's a fine line between winning that ticket and not even making it into the final race here. That's Martin Mertens there, the German rider, setting the tempo. Lucas Zanaska, and they're going to be joined by Joe Perot. So the Belgian has gone from group to group out here. Nathan, he's bridged, and he's going to attack, going like a hot knife through butter right now. It's Belgium on the front for Joe Perot.
Perot goes right over the top with speed. Can anybody even respond? We saw the suffering Michael Planteru before. He's backing off the 4.8, and Joe Perot goes by at 5.7 watts per kilogram. It's so scary to me, Dave, how large this group is that goes to the back of top 26 at this point, Dave. This is some of the strongest riders in the world still involved here, and it's going to be a sprint to the line if this doesn't break up for a spot into the next round. This is the cutoff as to whether or not you can even get a World's ticket any longer, and I think it goes back to 36th or so. Dave, I'm seeing Lionel Viasen off the back, Jonas Jarhed off the back, Teppo L'Oreal, Joseph Ries. I mean, these are huge names. Jarvid Geldins. These are all riders that have a really good kick when it comes to the bell lap. They need to fight to get back on terms, or it is over at this point, Dave. And Joe Perot, though, he's going. He's got 2 seconds. Is this that breakaway ride we talked about?
It's entirely possible that the man who wins the World Championships on February 18th is in jeopardy of not making the world's team right now. That's how awesome this format is. That's what it's all about. I mean, that is actually fair to say, that this right now is either it's a make or break moment here in Innsbruck. Nathan, great call. Joe Perot is your leader. How about Michael Planteru? Vive la France. He looks pretty good right now as he's going to cover that move. So it's the Belgian and the Frenchman together here on the front. One of them will get, well, one rider, I should say, not necessarily one of these 2, but they're looking pretty strong right now. They've got Lucas Zanaska right behind them with Martin Mertens. So they're not clear yet, or at all.
Joe Pro goes again, and talk about a discovery process here, Dave. We're finding some of the strongest riders in the entire world by far. Joe Pro, Michael Planthro, Lucas Zanaska, 3 off the front. It is going to be Martin Mertens just grinding to get back on terms. It's 4 now as Martin Mertens makes it back. Great to see this ride by him. Joe made a move, but Zanaska's pulling it back together. We've got 4 off the front of the best climbers in the world now at this point. You know, Michael Planthro, he impressed me so much in the Zwift Grand Prix with that ride away from the pack on that forward hill climb. And I said, this is a rider that's got something else in the tank, that's for sure. I'd really be watching out for him for that final kick to the line. 7.3 watts per kilogram right now. And I think this is one of those riders, though, Dave, that the suffering that's in the face, he looks like he's about to fall off at any moment, but he just keeps bringing it back to the table over and over again. Here comes Geldings, though. He's way back at this point, Dave. This is out of contention unless they bring back. Look at that train. Look at the train, Dave, of riders separated from each other. No Grupo Compacto.
Shows you how competitive this is. You're going to see some, like Gelnus was a winner in the ZRL. Tepalorio, one of, a highly respected esports rider. There's some huge names that won't be advancing into that third and final race. I mein, Harvard Gelnus, 38th place. Tepalorio, 39th. Michael Kaminsky sitting 40th. Jonas Bjahed, 41st. Pim Van Diemen. I feel like I'm reading a top 10 list, Nathan, from a ZRL race a year ago. So, boy, we've got some high quality new riders out here. Not new are these two, though. Michael Plantero and Joe Perot have a lot of experience as we go back to the Tête de la Course.
Martin Mertens attacks at 7.6 watts per kilogram here with a burrito power-up. There is the disruption power-up we were talking about. No draft on him on that flat section. He attacks through the flat, gains speed. Perot tries to respond. Planthro and Zanaska are out of the question now at this point. They would have to work so hard to bring back 5 seconds. 5 seconds feels like a light year on a climb like this. Joe Perot versus Martin Mertens here as they come into the 1 kilometer to go. Perot is responding, but it's 3 seconds, and Mertens still has 8 watts per kilogram, and he even rolls through at 7 into a 2%. That's a lot of speed. I'm not sure he is coming back. I think Martin Mertens may have done it.
You know that trope of the gambler just pushing all of his chips into the middle of the table? That is exactly what Martin Mertens, the German machine, can do right now. Nathan, he can completely commit and utterly bury himself, and that's what he's done. It looks to me like we've got a German ticket being punched right now as Martin Mertens has got another 750 meters to hold on here. It's not going to be easy, but it's his race to lose.
What a smart race here from Martin Mertens. We saw him at the beginning of this climb looking very calm and collected and cool. And look at the focus on this rider. I think he's really played this very calmly. Very good poker face on him all the way through. He knew exactly when to measure his efforts. He timed it so perfectly onto that flattening out section to gain some speed over his competitors, followed, and then made that tack at the decisive moment at about 1.5 Ks to go. 400 meters, that's all he's got to do, and he's got a world championship ticket. This is awesome to see. Great job for the rider from Cryo RDT. And out of Germany, one more added to the national team.
Joe Perot here is going to end up in the unfortunate position of second. I say unfortunate. Normally that would be great, but he did a lot of work for this second place, and we'll see how quickly he can recover. But Nathan, I'll let you call him home.
Martin Mertens, 7.2 watts per kilogram. There's 100 meters between him and a world championship ticket. The Continental Qualifiers winner of race number 2. A little bit of a shake of a fist in the air, and this rider's got to be really happy about that one. The work is done and doesn't have to worry about another thing for Worlds besides training for trying to take down that rainbow jersey. It is going to be Joe Perot coming on through using a drafting power-up, and then Planthro stamping his 3rd place. And then, this is nothing to wink at, Dave. This is, I would say, one of the strongest regions in the world amongst the men. We're seeing the top esports riders and climbers, and this is also an identification process, Dave, to show what these riders can pull off as they come across this in each one of these places. To take a top 10 even here is a definite palmares that you can put on your record.
We're going to go all the way back and look for that 26 rider right now. It is going to be, a large enough gap here that they should be relatively safe as they come across the line. So time to start active recovery, getting ready for the 20, excuse me.
Oh my gosh.
What's up, Nathan?
Dave, Jesper Schultz missed it, I think, by 1 place. 1 place, Dave. Oh, after a dropout, he was in the lead group, and I think he ended up in 27th place. There it is. 27th place to Jesper Schultz
That's
after
tough.
a dropout. He fought back all the way from like 45th, even 50th. He was almost at the back of the pack, Dave, and he fought so hard. Amazing effort to Jesper Schultz, the Danish rider. He really, really put on a show there, right? To still even be in contention after being out for a technical, essentially like changing a rear tire, right, Dave? It's like a flat tire in real life, a quick bike change in the middle of the most crucial point of the race. Almost made it happen. Kudos to him for making the effort there, but unable to quite do it. The cutoff, Dave, is interesting here. We've got some big names, and some of the biggest names in esports out of this race now.
I saw Bjorn Andresen made it. I think that's cool because he was that rider in race number 1 that was in the breakaway there. And that's extremely, extremely impressive that he was able to survive out of that 50 rider group to make. So the top 26 riders right now, one of them has moved on to Worlds. 25 will be getting ready to race again here as we'll be heading to the Bell Lap on Quit City. So, and also I saw James Barnes' name sitting there, 23rd, I believe, which is great for him. It means he did the minimum amount of work possible to be into an event where he should shine.
Wow, 24th place there for James Barnes, right on the edge, Dave. Only 2 spots, but James, he's got a kick. He did just what he needed to, probably, looking at the time gaps, making sure he was where he needed to be to get through the next round, because it does take, as you coined this term yesterday, the Swiss Army knife of esports racing and cycling out here. It is really what it takes. You got to have a little bit of talent in every single pool, but then be able to really shine to punch your ticket at the right moments out here. And I think James Barnes is going to be one of those riders. If he's got anything left in the tank, Dave, they've already been through a lot. A huge hill climb, a whole course out of Rilma Pool, covering moves over and over again. It's really also going to be about nutrition out there today, Dave, isn't it? And making sure the legs stay warm.
Is nutrition sugar? Because that's probably what I'd be looking for, no doubt about it, right? Just pure energy, because it's going to be a sprint fest, no doubt. Let's quickly, Nathan, look forward to the format here as it's intense. You've done a great job of highlighting that this is not a standard crit course at all. Let's take a look at the Bell Lap.
Yeah, we have 25 starters out here that have made it on through. There's only 12 qualification spots up for grabs. Race 3, 12 qualification spots for the 2023 UCI Cycling Esport World Championships. Once the race starts, these opportunities will come thick and fast. After the first lap, which is neutralized, there will be 1 sprint per lap. The winner of each sprint will qualify for the World Championships and then stop racing. So they are no longer involved in the race. They win by coming across that lap arch, or excuse me, not the lap arch, the preem sprint arch, and then done for their race. The field will diminish until there is only 1 qualification place left in the final sprint on lap 13. All sprints during race 3 will occur at the Bell Lap preem sprint arch. The start-finish arch will award power-ups, but will not be used for any sprints. Now, the power-up that is available, as you can see in the lower left there at the start-finish, is the burrito, a disruption only power-up is all they're going to have. It's 24.18 kilometers and 13 laps, Dave, 12 spots up for grabs. This is going to be really interesting. With a longer race, more spots up for grabs, the tactics start to get a little bit interesting because you've got the race can really take on different forms throughout the entirety of these 13 laps. You start seeing breakaways form. A few riders get not eliminated, but they win, and then they're out of the race. And then a whole new race starts to emerge with who's left. We kind of saw that yesterday in the Europe and Africa with women when there was 14 spots available, and you saw over and over again the race essentially reset, and you had a whole new race up for grabs with whoever was left out there racing.
It is so hard to calculate and gauge your tactics in an unknown format, and that's really what we've got here. We've seen just about everything you could imagine happening out here. One thing's for sure, it's incredibly exciting. I want to be clear about the term neutral is an interesting one. In reality, what we're saying is on that first lap that there's not a sprint for a spot at Worlds. It's you can attack right from the start. A lot of in road racing generally, you'll see as they roll out of a big city, it'll be neutralized and then the flag will drop and racing begins. These guys can race from the beginning. It's just there's no elimination the first time they're through the arches. That is what I was talking. The reason I'm highlighting that, Nathan, is because we could see some riders going from the gun. I would expect that we do with the type and quality that we've got. It's going to be bananas.
What was successful a lot over the last 4 races that we've had. We had 4 Continental qualifiers so far, 1 for the men so far, and 3 yesterday for the women. There was a lot of success with a jump from the 180-degree turn from pretty far out, Dave. Not a full half a lap, but about a quarter of a lap out from that arch, the pre-march, actually. Very successful moves through there. Now, it's really interesting that you state the neutral isn't, there's no neutral car, right? There's nobody holding anybody back from going. They don't have a van out there saying, hold on, and waving a flag. The flag waves for go at the pens, but it is nothing being awarded except for a burrito power-up at the first time through the lap arch. And then from there, I have a feeling we're really going to see the fireworks kick off, but you may see somebody trying to give a go who doesn't really trust their drag race sprint, perhaps, or a sprint to the line for that pre-march and just try and get away and grab something right off the bat. We did see, I wouldn't call it lazy, I would just, or I would say some of the pack allowing, it looked to me like riders, okay, go ahead, I'm not going to chase that one, it's not my time to go. I'm going to really time it when I'm going to go. And so the pack allowed, it seemed like yesterday in the European women's race, some riders just to go ahead, take your 10 watt per kilogram kick. We're not going to chase that. I'm planning mine for when I want to go. With enough spots up for grabs, that we might see that again here.
Yeah. Yeah, I agreed. I just absolutely love this format. As we mentioned earlier, this is what Worlds will be like. Not exactly this, but very, very similar as we've moved into the modern era of esports. I hope folks have been able to join us for the Zwift Grand Prix as well, as we've been looking at all kinds of new formats of racing, a lot of creativity. And to be fair, the racers have been a part of this process. Their feedback has been awesome to have, and that's really why we're moving at such a rapid rate into this new era. So looking forward to Worlds coming up. I mean, if you look on your calendar, Nathan, it's really just 2 months away. So these riders, some of the spots I would imagine when you look at the riders that have already made the Worlds team, their training begins today for that huge event. Esports World Championships on Zwift doesn't get bigger than this. Qualification process well underway. We've got 12 more spots to distribute.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see from a racer's perspective out here as they jump out on course. We've got about 4.5 minutes to start, but they are going to be thinking, I think, a lot about the amount of time that they've been on the bike so far and the pain that's already been in the legs. At least from my expectation and what I was thinking about coming in here, even as a racer, I'd be thinking, oh yeah, bell lap, it's going to be all about a big kick to the line. I'm going to have these sprints that I'm going to be involved in. But the reality that we've seen play out, when the reality of how much they've raced actually hits their legs and they start racing, I think this race of attrition that's played out actually starts to form in front of us. And we start seeing these abilities for riders to break away, because it is kind of like much later in a stage race. We've had 2 races so far, and now all of a sudden you're 2 hours of racing in. It's more of an end of an XC race or an end of a road race where it's like, who's got anything left in the tank? And with 13 laps of this and the 12 spots available, if you wait too long and you're just trying to hang on to a pack in each and every lap, your legs are getting even more tired, so you're going to have even less punch. So I think that's part of the reason why we haven't seen these pack bunch sprints, because these riders are just extremely tired after everything they've been through.
That's a fantastic point, Nathan. I mean, what it really makes me think of is, how different the sprint at the end of Milano San Remo is after, 200 miles of racing. Those guys that are winning that sprint are, probably barely making over depending on how much they weigh, but 700-800 watts versus the end of an American Criterium race after an hour and 10 minutes of racing, where those guys are making double that in power, but they haven't just ridden 200 miles to get to that finish line. I think this is more on, as far as esports goes, again, fantastic point. This is watching these guys sprinting after a very, very tough day on the bike, and riders respond differently physiology wise to this. This is their jam. That's the difference between a road sprinter, a guy like Mark Cavendish, versus a track sprinter, someone like Chris Hoy, right, on the velodrome. And they're both sprinters, but they live in completely different universes.
One tactic that I was not expecting at all to work out, that has been working plenty out there, has been the counterattack over the top of the pre-march, down the pave, over and over again. It's really interesting to me. This is not something that I would have expected at all in this race, but over and over again, we've seen riders look to try and bridge up to an attack that maybe gets a spot, and then fail in actually bridging and getting that spot, but continuing on with that effort, or even attacking onto that downhill, getting a 1 to 2 second, 3 second gap, and the rest of the pack sitting up, either unable to respond or unwilling to respond, and then just walking away with it. That tactic has played out over and over again as something that has succeeded. It's going to be really interesting to see if the pack has learned, or if the riders have been watching these last 4 races and going, we can't let that go. That will win the day. Because I, as a racer personally, would have never thought that that would succeed. I would probably think the same thing. Oh, we'll bring them back. The downhill, we've still got a half a lap. There'll be a kick that goes through. But again, time and again, it has been a successful move. We'll see if that plays out again. Watch out for that move, because it has definitely been a dangerous, dangerous move for the pack to let go throughout the racing that we've seen so far this weekend.
I don't know if it's an American saying or not, Nathan, but the go big or go home. Well, there's a go home element to that means no worlds for you. But if you're afraid to risk it, I don't know that you're going to make the world's team either. So this is where you really find out what kind of an athlete you are. These are the moments where, as they say, meet the moment. Well, here's the moment. Meet it. We've got some great athletes ready to throw down. It's going to be just under half of these riders that will be representing their nation at the World Championships, one of the greatest honors that you can have in sports. So, Nathan, we are locked and loaded. This is not a drill, as there's going to be 12 dreams coming true and 13 hearts being shattered in Crit City. It's bell lap. It's go time as we hit out for our final event for Africa and Europe.
25 starters, 12 spots available, 13 laps in front of you for the bell lap. Here we go. Out of the pens, out in Crit City. It's going to be a right-hand turn into the first neutralized lap, but they can make a move if they want to. And sure enough, Dave, we've got one rider off the front making his move to try and get away. Is there going to be anybody to follow? It's going to be Bjorn Anderson. This is the rider that was off the front with Pettinger making his move. He was unable to capitalize on all that energy, but he makes it early here. And will he stay away? I'm not sure the pack is all that interested in chasing. They might just let this go.
I respect the game here, Nathan. So Bjorn's got a ways to go. So we'll monitor this one as we are underway. The first of 12 spots. Bjorn is looking to, I mean, it makes sense to me, Nathan. It's like the tearing off of the Band-Aid thing. He just wants to get this over with. He's going to completely commit himself. I'm going to say that if he doesn't get the spot here, the first one, he doesn't pick one up at all. I think this is completely what you, again, say all in on this. I respect that.
It's a really respect. Yeah, I respect it 100%. All he's got to do is one lap here at this point. And look, nobody wants to chase. It's not. This is a very intelligent move, actually, to continue on with. The moment that he saw that nobody was coming with him, he knew that he could bury himself with it. He's already out of sight, Dave. I think this is over. I don't think that they're bringing this back at this point. There's no motivation. There's still 11 spots up for grabs. And tactically, when it comes to the mental game up against this pack, he has outplayed them all.
I agree. He must have been so stoked when he realized, Nathan, that no one was going with him. I wonder if he caught a little bit of a karma rebate there for the way he rode in that first. Someone looked down on him and said, let's give this guy a little bit of a push, put some wind in his sails. As
And we see here, Anderson here, 6.5 watts per kilogram on the front and 13 seconds. Sinaska, 4.3. He's not really making any kind of chase. You can see in second place there. 14 seconds, Dave. This is a shoe-in for the first ticket. It essentially creates an extra neutral lap for everybody else, or who's going to be the next to go. And the reality is, now that he's up the road here, Dave, this really just makes a whole nother race behind him that they can start playing their game for that next spot. But it's not going to be on this lap. It'll be on the following lap. So if somebody wants to make a move early again, they could do so for a long go effort rather than a sprint to the line.
Yeah, this is definitely his moment, a victory lap, if you will, for Bjorn Andersen, the Danish rider, who add one more to that extremely strong team. But yeah, there's another bike race going on behind him now. Everyone all together here as, yeah, Bjorn catching a little bit of a break. They say courage favors the brave. There's your perfect example here in Crit City. As I'll throw it back to you, Nathan, as he'll be collecting his prize shortly.
Looks like family cheering him on in the Pain Cave. Great to see. A little bit of wheels and bicycle kit behind him there as well. But the Danish rider going to make it happen for Denmark. Look at the smile on the face. The World Championship ticket is punched. And as you said, a little bit of a karma rebate, making it happen. Awesome to see after all that effort off the front. The risks taken in race number 1 on Rule La Pool. He makes it through to the race number 2, survives even over the top of the Isbrook hill climb, which is an amazing effort in and of itself, and now gets that ticket punch. Lerstein, though, we've got another race taking place behind. 10 watts per kilogram coming from the Norwegian rider. The response coming from Daniel Turek, as you can see. Andy Nichols is also there from the BL13 rider there out of the UK. On the attack, over the top at 12 watts per kilogram. He's looking to go for the one lap to go flyer. That's Nichols doing exactly what we just talked about. And this is a rider that had major upset in the opposite direction on this course, actually, at the Premier Division level. Lerstein's with him, and we got 2 off the front, Dave, but it's only going to be one that's going to be able to grab it on this lap.
What we've seen is riders benefiting from the momentum that they take with them as they go off of the front here, not always collecting that World Championship spot, but getting it a lap later. Again, it's been so aggressive. So that term preem is a lap prize in any criterium or circuit race around the world. The prize here is massive, and look at that. Joe Perot has gone by. So wow, little bit of a surprise here. Joe Perot, well, it shouldn't be a surprise. He's a huge talent, but coming out of nowhere as he's going to try to burn one in now. This is going to be the Belgian Joe Perot here. Nathan, I'll throw it back to you. Has he done enough to claim his spot now?
Planthero, though, there on the front at third spot. That's going to be the deal breaker, I think, for whether or not that this survives, because there's a lot of people getting interested at this point. They saw how riders were able to just kind of sneak away over and over again and whittle away at the number of spots that will be available. I think that this pack is a little bit more turned on to the reality that you can't let those dice roll too many times ahead of you and allow those positions to slip away, as well as seeing that they could maybe get involved in a breakaway and grab some spots in a breakaway situation. Now, Turek goes, though, at 8.5 watts per kilogram. Burrito power up, all in on the climb. Joe Perot plant through, look at the spot, but here comes Foldinger. Watch out for Foldinger. He might have a whole lot in the tank to go across.
He's been on the podium already at the World Championships in his career. This is Daniel Turek that we're looking at now, looking for that red arch. It can't come quick enough. Hitting the afterburners now. Nathan, I think he's got enough in the tank. Watch out for attacks coming out of that group behind. It has been frenetic out here.
We've got a little bit of split in the group behind now at this point. It's all about survival, I think, as the burrito power-up's getting thrown down, but it's going to be Daniel Turek. Turek grabs the spot here. Amazing ride there from him, grabbing that second spot out on course. It was initiated by Nichols, but didn't end up paying off as Daniel Turek comes through. Next, presented by Insured, they grab a rider on through into the Worlds, and it's the Czech Republic with a rider added to the national team. Samuel Brandlin now on the move for Sweden, but it's going to be Van den Eck now coming on through for Belgium right over the top. But the group all back together, it looks like here, Dave. As far as the main group, I'm not sure how many are still there. If anybody's been dropped off the back, we'll try and get some information on that. But, Dave, I think it's just about everybody but one. No, everybody I think is still here, Dave. Still a full pack intact with the spots up for grabs still.
Yeah, as the riders get their ticket, they remove themselves from the race. We were looking at Brandlin, but now we've got, it looks like Van den Eck out is going to be. So Belgium looking to grab another spot here, Nathan. Again, you get the feeling the pressure is still coming from behind, and absolutely it is. So this one's far from over. There were 12 total spots, and very, very quickly we're watching them go away. It's not the orange arch. This is where they get their power up. They're going to be looking for that red arch that comes next. And here we go.
Hugo Viort, Michael Planteroux, both Frenchmen trying to get involved. I saw orange numbers just a moment ago from them, waiting for their moment to go. Oh, man, this is a tough touch-and-go moment because it's all about the first across the line here. Burrito power-up coming from Van den Eck, but it's going to be Planteroux coming across. It's only 3 seconds back at this point. I'm not sure that's going to be enough, but Van den Eck goes again. 10 watts per kilogram from the Belgian rider. He's fully committed at this point. Lucas Zanoska now kicks 8 watts per kilogram. Every man for himself. Man, the guns are firing left and right, Dave. This is nonstop of peppering this field. Everyone wants to break this apart to get into that top 12 spots. Van den Eck out here now makes it happen. He's punched his ticket.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one rider after another, rocks up, shows the courage, and then hits out with authority to claim their ticket. And Nathan, once you've watched back in that group, 4 different riders, I believe it's 4 qualified so far. It might be 3, but either way, you watch riders doing this successfully, that will be another qualifier here. Bart van den Eyck out for Belgium, so that's 2 for Belgium. But Nathan, when you watch it work, it certainly encourages you to give it a shot. Also, it encourages others. So you got to find your opportunity out here. They say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. They've done the preparation. They're looking for a little bit of opportunity and make that luck happen. Lucas Zanoska to the front. Back to you, Nathan.
I've never seen this kind of separation on Crit City in the entirety. Over and over again, this has happened time and time again throughout the weekend where the attacks go and they go and they go and they succeed. And now at this point, it's starting to look like rather than waiting for a bunch sprint, you have to wait for your moment to just go on the attack and take it for yourself. And now we're seeing who has qualified for the Worlds. We've had 3 from this race. Bjorn Andersen, Daniel Turek, Bart van den Eck out, and then obviously Eddie Uhl and Martin Mertens that made it through as well. But this is the 5 spots total that we've qualified so far. Dave, we still have 9 more to award out here, Dave, and we've got a breakaway happening now. 3 riders off the front. It's a tough spot that one rider is going to find themselves in, Dave, because the reality is, or maybe even 2 riders, but eventually there's going to be a rider all by themselves dangling off the front trying to hold off a pack of hungry wolves because they will be awarded and then pulled from the race over and over again. If you don't win that spot, you end up all alone trying to hold off this pack.
It's fascinating when you look at the dynamic of the fact that the chase gets weaker and weaker as we make our way deeper into this race as well. We started with 25 on the line already. I mean, this field is down to under 20 riders as they continue to look for their world championship spot. This is going to, so Michael Plantero is another rider who deserves this with the, everybody deserves it, that's for sure, the work that they've done, but he has been an animator and a dictator out here, and it looks like the Frenchman's going to get his spot. Back to you, Nathan.
Lucas Zanoxka looking to respond here, but Michael Plantero 7.4 watts per kilogram. But here comes Lynn. Lynn out of Denmark here, 11 watts per kilogram from that rider. Zanoxka not able to respond, and Plantero, I think, thought he had it, but no. It's going to be Daniel Lane that's going to be the next rider that's going to qualify for Worlds. He timed it perfectly, able to come up and over the top with that monstrous kick, and now it's down to 2 in this breakaway, Dave. Zanoxka versus Plantero. Who's going to make it happen, the Italian or the Frenchman?
I can't answer that, but I can tell you that they both benefit if they can work together. But Zanoxka has said enough of that. Luca has gone. Ciao bello, as Luca Zanoxka now rolling clear. It's got a challenging lap out here in Crit City. You can see that distance there. That's not really the name of the game, as that's the clock running out on your world championship opportunity. To tell you the truth, if you're sitting back in this field and being conservative, you might want to rethink your game plan and go into Luca mode, because Luca Zanoxka, Nathan, looks like he's in pretty good shape now to get a spot.
Yeah, at 22 seconds, you can see the pack behind. They have reset their race, and a whole new race is developing back there. Lucas Zanoxka is going to take this down. I even think that Michael Plantero, for another lap, has this as well. He is not in any danger, I don't think, either, and he's going to be able to roll in. It is around 20 seconds for Plantero, but I think he's going to be able to make it happen. But really, the story right now is the effort here from Lucas Zanoxka. What's really interesting to me, Dave, is what is playing out in front of our eyes is some of the most torturous tactical racing I've ever seen. Essentially, what you're trying to do is completely break the pack's motivation to chase you any longer, get involved in either a solo breakaway or a breakaway of a few riders, and then from there, you have to attack out of that, but all within a 1 to 2 kilometer lap. I mean, within like even 3 kilometers. The amount of over-the-top efforts repeated over and over again is some of the hardest racing you could ever do in your life. This looks like an absolute torture chamber right now of physical effort for these riders.
Plantero really benefits from believing in that break, even though Zanoxka attacked him, a dastardly attack, like Romeo and Juliet, right? But ultimately, love and hate, it's all emotion out here, and that benefits Plantero as well, as the Frenchman, no doubt, will get a spot here. So even though he rolled the dice, it maybe didn't come up with exactly what he was looking for, but it worked out in the end. So, yeah, Plantero realizes now that he's going to be at World Championships representing one of the greatest nations in cycling, France. That's, again, this is Luca.
With a little bit of celebration already now, 3.6 watts per kilogram, the Italian. Now, Plantero now with a little kick to try and hold on, but Zanoxka. Lucas Zanoxka. He did it in Yorkshire a few weeks back, well, a month or two back here for the Zwift Grand Prix. Now he did it again with a breakaway to get his ticket. Now, Plantero, that's the situation, Dave. At 24 seconds, I think he's a shoe-in at this point. He had worked so hard over the top of that Innsbruck climb, and I was wondering if he'd have anything left in the tank. Well, he's showing us that he does. Now he's just got to roll it on through for another lap, but at 21 seconds, and with Havat on a 9 watt per kilogram kick, Barnes on his wheel, this could come down a lot faster than maybe he expects. They just cut 10 seconds into his advantage in less than half a K, Dave.
I'm still feeling pretty good about Michael's chances here. The French rider, that was just Lucas Zanoxka getting the spot before him. It looks like one of his French colleagues there starting to ramp it up, watching that gap come down, but still, I think that Plantero really did make a great decision a few laps ago going with Zanoxka and company there. And he's the last of those riders from that break that will end up picking up a spot. And you got that right, Nathan. We're going to go hit the reset button here. James Barnes and company have still got work to do.
Harburg on the front of that chase pack at 7.6 watts per kilogram. Gel Power looking to respond, it looks like. Barnes at 5.2. They're all together here at this point. Harburg on the attack for sure. He's throwing down a burrito power up to try and get some separation. Other burrito power ups are being thrown down with Jans van Renberg, I believe that's going to be. Alexi Kalman, they're all throwing power ups now at this point with those burritos. It's down to 8.5 seconds. Will there be a massive attack here out of this pack to try and close it down? The Planter through this climb. Planter's got 5.4 watts per kilogram. Is anybody going to continue on with the pace from the pack as they continue to eat into it? Planter, it looks like, feeling fairly confident. 191 beats per minute at this point with a 7-second gap.
Certainly not easy. He's going to bury himself here now. I think the buffer is enough, but very astute here, Nathan. It's not over till it's over. It's a little closer, I think, than the French rider was looking forward to. Will Plantreau ultimately get that spot or not? I'm certainly pulling for him with all the work he's done out here today.
It's amazing. Look at the suffering on the face, knowing that they were right there. He sees them in the background most likely, but they're not going to close it down. I think there was a little bit of hope in the pack for a moment there to maybe grab a spot on this lap. But Planthero, talk about putting every single last ounce of effort to grab that. He was off the front solo for a good 2 laps, holding off a hard charging pack. They almost actually brought it back. It was within 5, 4, even 3 seconds. But now, here we go. Alexi Kalaman now using that burrito power up after he knows everybody was really ramping it up to bring back some of that time here. Kalaman now gets a solid 2 seconds. Will anyone respond? They have to start letting riders go at a certain point, Dave, if they're not going to just see these spots roll away from them. Is the reality, Dave, that there's just nothing left in the legs, or are they still playing tactical games? Because, Dave, these spots really are just being let go.
I think you start playing more tactical games when there's nothing left in the legs, to tell you the truth. It's your only hope, right? As you're down to your wits at this point. And that's going to be Chell Power here coming through, trying to make that catch as Alexi Kalman is the Danish rider off of the front. Boy, there's some big names, a lot of horsepower back here, Nathan. And I'm going to throw it to you. Coming to the line.
Yeah, not a whole lot of time left here, Dave. It's only 10K left for anymore. Now a counterattack here coming from Viort. It's Viort here. Perot now trying to hang on. Perot now jumps again, but no. Perot now jumps back to 11 watts per kilogram. May he be able to hang on? Barnes is there as well. Foldegard, this one is all in, Dave. A lot of chips on the table right now. Viort, I think there's a dropout. No, there's a dropout here. It looks like for Viort. Perhaps they're coming from him. Can he get back on the bike? The Frenchman might have completely lost all of his chances for a world championship. Now, Jans van Renberg went over the top. James Barnes goes all in at this moment. 13 watts per kilogram from Barnes. He's done his homework, but Jans van Renberg's trying to do it as well. His fellow countrymen, South Africa, trying to come over the top too, but I think Barnes may have done it.
All right.
Barnes here, 10 watts per kilogram here. Now, as you can see, 8.4 watts per kilogram coming from him. 3.3 here from Jans van Renberg, but unable to come across to James Barnes, the man himself. Barnesy makes it happen. Foldiger now on a counterattack. We've seen this many times so far. Barnes, South Africa, another man on through. Foldiger now goes on the counter, and he's got an immediate 3-second gap here, it looks like. The Danish rider looking to roll away. Goes to 0 watts per kilogram very quickly there to use the speed on the downhill. Rolls right on through, and I don't know if anybody's going to be able to respond. I think Foldiger was playing it so smart to this point. Keeping it quiet all the way up until this point right now. We haven't seen him on the front a whole lot. He watched everybody burn match after match to try and grab that spot right there, and then came over the top with all of that speed, grabs me at 4 seconds. He knows everyone is completely gassed at this point, looking for their reset, and they are going to do just that. It's going to be a full reset right here, Dave, at this moment, I believe, in order to try and maybe grab another sprint effort here in a little bit. Now it looks like actually DeSmet now coming across. This is surprising. 3 seconds is all it is here. Noren as well now coming across. I thought Foldiger was completely gone, but DeSmet's within 2.5 seconds.
the experience of being on the World Championship podium has got to come into play now. Certainly a confidence builder. You can see right behind him the heavy heat right now. You mentioned the Belgian De Schmecht. Also there is Noren, the Swedish rider. Oh boy, Denmark has had a tremendous day out here in our Conti qualifiers, Nathan. I wonder if they're going to get one more spot here with Anders.
It was a big risk here from Foldiger, and such a strong rider. I thought it would really stay away here, but Noren, De Smet, the rest of these riders, they're starting to realize they can't let these go. They're putting big risks in. They're starting to not care who they're bringing with them because they know the reality is they can't let these spots slip away from them any longer. So they are digging in and saying, caution to the wind, bring this back, because my world is up the road. I have to not care who's on my wheel. I have to just go over the top over and over again, keep this speed high, because the chances are running out. Here comes Nichols, UK, looking for another spot. He's got 9.12 watts per kilogram from Andy Nichols. He's going to make this happen for the UK. Another rider for the British national team. Great to see here. Another counterattack, but Nichols going to make it happen. BL13 in for another spot.
That's a big catch right there, Nathan. Wow, major turn of events. We're down to it. I believe that leaves 3 spots left now, as we're running out of room at the inn, to tell you the truth, Nathan, very, very quickly. So the panic now has to start setting in back in this group in Crit City. That's going to be Nichols. He's pulling himself out of the event as a world's qualifier. And here we go.
Yeah, the slingshot effect over and over again. There is so much dynamic racing going on. I've never seen anything like it here before. And now De Smet goes. It's going to be his turn. There's the speed. That's that 2% little bit of a uphill gradient we've talked about over and over again. Into the 1% downhill. Culiz now goes across. It looks like 9.6 coming from him. 2 riders looking to try and separate themselves from the pack, but this pack is hungry. They know at this point they cannot let anything go up the road, closing it down immediately. Gel Power now to 2.8 watts per kilogram, actually. The Belgian rider not going along with this here. He's got a little bit of wiggle room here. Will he continue on with it at 7 watts per kilogram and a whole lot of speed? Is it opening up? It looks like he might have done it, Dave. Nobody responding just yet.
14 total spots were allocated to the men of Europe and Africa, and there's only a couple left now. So this is it. Full on racing here, as everybody's going to be scrambling to get the last couple tickets here for the sold out World Show.
Wondering if Kuliz, if this is all that he actually has in the tank at this point at 6 watts per kilogram, because somebody still could jump out of that pack behind to try and grab this spot from him. Man, Foldiger, it's a tough one for him. He just put in so much effort for an entire lap. I'm wondering if he's going to have anything left, and that is a rider that has been at the top level before, and I thought for sure that he was a shoo-in for that lap, but unable to do so. The pack said enough was enough. But this is the story right now in front of us at 6 seconds. The timing really makes it happen. It's all about the tactics and timing so far. Gel Power now kicking at 15 watts per kilogram behind. Another break looking to happen. But the story right now, France has another national team member for the World Championships, and a qualifier pushes right on through. We've got 5.9 kilometers to go. 5.9 kilometers to go and only a couple of spots left.
Wow. And to hear names like Power have still not qualified, absolutely amazing. 10 riders now. Uhl, Mertens, Andersen, Turek amongst the riders that are going to be heading to the World Championships. Here we go. De Schmecht here. You see a lot of these, the Belgian jerseys, some big names back in this group, including former South African road national champion Janse van Rensburg. So no shortage of quality here, but there is a shortage of opportunity. Now we're running out of spots quickly.
Yeah, running out of spots real quick. Where's going to be the next attack? This is the full reset now. Essentially, the race starts completely over. We've got 12 watts per kilogram coming from De Smet over that little bump of a climb into that downhill. The speeds are high. Riders trying to jump on turns. We've got burrito power-ups going left and right to make sure nobody's got a draft. It's going to be Harburg over the top at 8.7. Samuel Brandlin out of Sweden goes with them. It's going to be Perot that's able to make the move. Kalman's there. Noren's there. Gel Power's there. Nobody off the back except for Foldiger. Foldiger is is done. It's 4 or 5 seconds back for Folger. He's put himself down to 1.4 watts per kilogram. Enough is enough for him. He put it all in that one lap go and was unable to hang on as the pack brought him back. The Danish rider is out. His only hopes will be for a selection now for a national team. Pro now on the front though, 4.2. It's all been brought back together. I am assuming there's going to be some sort of a counter from right at the bottom at this 180, and there it is. Zhao Power's the one to go off the front along with Jans van Renberg. He's going as well. Rensburg now has the gap. Is the response from the pack able to close it down? I don't think they're going to let this one slip away as De Smet kicks into 11 watts per kilogram.
Wow, South Africa getting their 3rd spot of the 14 available. That is outstanding for South Africa here. I'm super impressed. This is a world tour level rider out here who had to fight tooth and nail for this spot, Nathan. So Janse van Rensburg there, that South African flag has had quite a day. Or, oh boy, look at this. Joe Perot is coming.
Right to the line, it looks like Joe Pro. Is he going to be able to come to the top? No, it's Rensburg. And Rensburg, man, it's right there, right to the line for it, but he's able to make it happen. It was less than a second gap. Zhao Power attacking, trying to get off the front with Joe Pro, and that is going to happen. It looks like Zhao, though, is Power is 2 seconds back. He's got to kick again. He does kick up into 8 watts per kilogram. Perot had a lot of speed onto that downhill. The Belgian rider, will he be able to stay away from Jean Power? Power has been trying over and over again to get involved in one of these breaks and has been unable to necessarily make it happen. He's continuing on with his attack, even though that behind him, Harburg is looking now to come across. 3 spots up for grabs here at this point. Perot now at 6.6 watts per kilogram. The Belgian rider here with a fellow countryman in the chase. Harburg now out of Sweden. De Smet now. Everybody's going full gas, Dave. There's only so many spots. We've got how many riders we have left out here, Dave? We've got, I believe, 12 riders still involved at this point, and we've got 2 spots available.
Right, exactly. That 12 is not just from this race. It's including race 1 and race 2. So 2 spots here, and it looks like 1 may be heading to Belgium with Joe Perot written on the envelope. As Nathan, the gap is large enough. I think that this is it. We're going to be down to 1 spot left pretty quickly here. And I think they're going to be racing into that group behind Joe Perot here. So the Belgian looking like he's done enough. Boy, he didn't leave a lot of wiggle room out here. Back to you for the finale. We're down to it. Just crumbs left on the table.
Man, the question is, do you risk anything out of that pack at this point? If they've really backed down to 2 watts per kilogram for just a moment, as you saw from Brandland, so many of these riders behind have so much power. So this is crazy. Alexi Kalman, Zhao Power, Samlin Brandland, Russell is still in there, Noren, Harburg at 6.7 now on the front. I mean, these are big names that only have 1 spot available in front of them. But Joe Perot, that counter attack, we've seen it time and time again. It has worked out for him, and he will be punching a ticket. He's got one of the last 2 spots in front of us is going to the Belgian national team. But now, Dave, 9 riders, 1 spot, 1 lap to go. 9 riders, 1 spot, and 1 lap to go. That's what it's down to between them. De Smet throws down a burrito power-up and wants to end it early, it looks like, as he comes over the top. But there it is across the line for Perot. But De Smet behind at 8.4 is looking to break them early.
I'm trying to figure out if he's completely committed to that attack or not, as Joe Perot will be heading to Worlds. But wow, Nathan, there is one. Okay, this is the gap that we're looking at now. Last lap underway. De Smet has been in the bank. He's gathered up all the money, and now he's in the getaway car. But boy, they are hot on his heels here.
Yeah, and as you can see behind there, we do see Harburg, Noren, and a few others. It's only 4 seconds. And they're trusting, Dave. You can see it. They're trusting that it's going to come back. It's only 2 seconds at this point. I have a feeling we're going to see a massive kick in just a moment from that pack behind. It's a 2% gradient here in just a second, and they're going to look for as much speed as they possibly can to close that down. And there it is from Harburg there. Maybe not a massive kick. There might be not be too many massive kicks left in the legs of any of these riders. This is all in, Dave, for De Smet. He has to hold on because this is a world ticket or not at only 3 seconds. It's not a big gap, and there's going to be a massive punch for somebody in that pack behind to try and get their ticket back from up the road.
There is no question that that is coming. Does he have enough of a buffer? It's gotten close to 4 seconds. It's going to start coming down as it is right now as the Norwegian hits the gas. Okay, they're charging. Will the Belgian hold on and end up representing his nation at the World Championships?
There's Fiend. He gets a 2-second gap over the top of the rest of the pack with the burrito power-up. Nobody could jump on his wheel. It was a very well-used burrito power-up. Everybody gaining a burrito power-up at this point. Wouldn't be surprised if we see them flying like crazy in just a moment. Everybody keeping the draft off of them. But Norin now, there's Fiend, Hardberg, Brandlin. That's the order. Kjellman is sitting in at 3 seconds back. I think the win for this final spot's going to come from the back of the pack, from back to front. If there's a big kick from any of them, Brandlin now looking to make it happen. Brandlin now at 6.2 watts per kilogram, but here comes Alexi Kjellman there. Burrito power up, 7.6 watts per kilogram. It's a last-ditch effort to the line. Kjellman rolling right on through. There's the fire socks from Zhao Power. Zhao Power's got 12 watts per kilogram. This is the last all-in, and it's going to be Zhao Power. Zhao Power still has double digits. Brandlin's trying to go with him. Will he be able to do it? But it's going to be Power. 14 watts per kilogram coming from the Belgian rider. This is the last spot. And Power, he tried again and again and again. He had to wait till the final kick in the last 100 meters of the entire race. Zhao Power does it for Belgium. Everybody else is out. There is the ticket punch, your last qualifier for the World Championships. There's probably so much anxiety released in that room right now because it all came to the last kilometer. Not sure if you're going to make it, Dave. And now the elation of the rider from Canyon Esports in Belgium. One more qualification.
What a massive moment in his career. You think about the difference, Nathan, if he doesn't win that sprint, how it changes everything for him. He now no longer has to wait for that the phone call or the email from the federation. He knows he'll represent Belgium along with two of his colleagues there will be joining him. Joe Perot wins. The Belgians take the last two out there, and Bart van dem Eikert taking an earlier sprint. It was Bjorn. Well, I think that was righteous there. Bjorn Andresen taking the first of the sprints out here. Eddie Uhl, the South African, wins the first race that we had at the Roel Mapoel. And then we headed over to Innsbruck, where Martin Mertens was able to take the win. And along with that, a trip to the World Championships, what moved us into where we just wrapped things up in Grit City. And Nathan, I would say frenetic and fantastic would describe that racing.
Yes, that reminds me of the Hurricane of Pain. If you want to, it's essentially like mountain bike short track racing meets, I don't even know, like the last 500 meters of some sort of track sprinting. I mean, that was absolutely insane. There's just power attacks, burritos, everything just flying everywhere. You use that term, a Donnybrook, Dave. I think that was the most well-defined Donnybrook in front of our eyes we've ever seen in Zwift racing. Just nonstop, absolute mayhem. Haymaker after haymaker, people getting pummeled into corner. Remember WrestleMania, and they had that one where slowly people, the Royal, it was like some sort of rumble. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but they would just send all the wrestlers into the middle, and then there's just the last man standing. That's what it felt like, Dave. The ultimate show of nonstop power on a bicycle.
If I say the Royal Rumble, am I correct? I believe so, and that is exactly.
I think
right.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it might be, but that format certainly makes sense. And yeah, this is modern esports, Nathan. And you've been a part of moving the sport to where we've arrived. And it's just so incredibly exciting.
It is extremely exciting to see, and it's really cool to see how these riders really had to earn their spots out there today. And This what we've seen here from this European and Africa specific region, with the level that was brought to it, as well as the motivation that the riders brought to each and every lap, it really made the racing extremely interesting. And the tactics that played out in front of us after playing out on Rulma Pool into that Innsbruck climb, really putting some attrition into the legs of the riders, and then for them to have to show up for those final 13 laps out on the Innsbruck ring and attack after attack and follow after follow. It really does look forward. It's a little bit of a look forward to crowning a champion, really, Dave. In the way that they had to qualify, they had to do a preliminary run-up to crowning a champion because you had to really earn it there today in both tactic as well as athletic prowess.
I saw some of the women who all raced yesterday, Nathan, talking about how enjoyed the format.
I think we've got internet. The internet in Belgium, I think, is struggling just a little bit. I have a feeling Gel Power, he put down so much power into those pedals that the internet began to struggle over in the country of Belgium, where Dave is right now at this moment. So thanks to Gel for helping out in the broadcast there as well. This is a really really great experience, though, to watch what that was in those final laps. Absolutely, really, really cool. What we just saw here, everybody, when it comes to the Continental Qualifiers, that was race number 5. We had so far the women yesterday when it comes to the Saturday racing all day, Oceans, Asia. Then we saw the Americas as well as Europe and Africa from the women. Now, completed today, we've got Oceans and Asia done for the men. We've got Europe and Africa done for the men as well. We still have the Americas actually coming up later today. That's going to be at 2 p.m. Central Time. We'll be able to watch some of the best Americans, America's region in the world take on the World Championship qualifiers on the same courses that we just saw. That's all going to be over on twitch.tv, the Go Zwift channel, if you do want to check that out. It's been really great having everybody here hanging out and chat with us. We've been watching it absolutely flying through, actually, for the chat. We've had today 20, how many spots did we get? We get 14 qualifiers that have gone through. 2 of those happened on the hill climbs on Rulma Pool. We had a couple of upsets out there as well. Now, for those riders and those top esports athletes that we saw not qualify, they still have the ability to join in their national teams, but they do have to get selected for those by those national federations. But we did see 14 roll through. Well, not just roll through, compete and absolutely put everything on the line. Some of the best esports moments that we have seen, Dave, in the world by far. Starting out with that attack from Eddie Uhl, that was one of the awesome, best moments I've ever seen. One of the highest demand, I would say, on a physical effort in Zwift I think I've ever seen as well. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And we've the internet there, obviously hanging out in Belgium, but we will see you guys all later today for the Americas race, 2 p.m. Central Time. We'll be live on Go Zwift over on Twitch for the Americas qualifiers. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Right on.